Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I want to show you how a person with 6 years of trading experience trades. At the same time, I will try to tell you about my journey. I hope you find it interesting and watch the video until the end. Also, I immediately ask you to leave a like and write a comment. I wish everyone an enjoyable viewing. Let's get started. So here we are, considering the possibility of opening positions for a decrease. I am using only two indicators in today's trading to determine the direction in which I will open. Now I will explain the principle of the signals and then show their settings. The first attention is paid to the RSI. Look, even though it hasn't fully turned yet later, I think you'll see why exactly this is the case. I don't know, at least I really hope so. In general, the RSI reflects the trend structure. We will trade exclusively based on its lines. There is a strong decline observed on the chart. This is visible by the red candles. And the moving average curve is also forming a slope, from which I understand that the asset will now start to reverse after the correction. If you pay attention to the moving average and the directed line, in the RCI indicator, you can notice that sometimes they move in the same direction. We can use this in our strategy. However, it is also important to consider their divergence, as this is where the main advantage of this trading approach lies. So friends, we can observe a small correction, but I think the sellers will now push everything out and it will turn out as I expect. Yes, excellent, nothing complicated. You can learn and observe how professionals trade. Indicators show us everything. We just need to read them. Right, look, here, the period is 20, type EMA. This is for the moving average and for the RCI. The period is 5 to enhance its sensitivity and accordingly receive more signals. Look, this is what I was telling you about. A sharp decline has begun and we can open another trade for a decrease, also on the distant one. Regarding this currency pair, I think no one will have any questions about it. No questions will arise. Let's go for another trade. This is what I am telling you, 6 years of experience, myself. It speaks for itself. Look, quite an active breakthrough of the RSI, and it also immediately turns around looking down. And in principle, the signals at this moment are already fully aligned. To open the next position, I opened in advance, excellent. A precise approach is needed in the market. And that's all, friends. As for my journey, which began 6 years ago, back then my eyes were shining and I was full of energy. Pardon my French, and the desire to earn was simply insane. But I had no experience at all as I started. Absolutely, from scratch. And back then, there were no educational materials, no manuals, let alone videos on YouTube, like there are now. And I had to learn from forums. And I think the second deal is already closing in profit. Great, we started off well. Let's look for a new place where we can open the next contract. So, Euro Canadian dollar, here we are also executing a signal for a decrease. The main advantage right now is that the trend is in a bearish phase. You see, everything is constantly decreasing. In the RCI, there is a very strong slope which works in our favor. We expect further decline. Look, if I had opened a position at the last moment of the reversal, a little later, in general, by a minute, another correction could have started, as the chart cannot constantly move in just one direction. It either grows or declines, or there are moments of correction. There you go. This is a great time to enter a trade. I say it again. And look, I will also be telling you more about the RSI lines, by the way. This is what we will be paying the most attention to. But I will say right away that in my own trading, when I have 6 years of experience, I only partially rely on signals from indicators, and mostly all my analysis is based on visual, technical, and candlestick analysis. So, friends, well, I believe this is a wonderful conclusion to the deal. Next, I will be more detailed, talking about the lines and everything else. Great, we closed the deal in profit. You see, just as I said, a rebound and a small correction have started. Super, the deal is in profit, already $106. We have it. Therefore, I believe we can move on to the next deal for today. Friends, another short position. It may seem like a sideways trend, but it's not. Look, The flip side of this strategy is the slope of the lines, which indicate the best direction to go, where you can earn. We just need to find a place where we can do these and position our contract correctly. Don't forget to monitor past data from which it can be understood that the bulls encountered serious resistance from the bears as the trend strongly bounces off its upper barrier, and each time the movement is lower and lower. And finally, of course, you can determine the ultimate goal in the form of the previous support level for the price. Currently, the RSI is in the oversold zone, but with a period of 5, so it is very sensitive and can reverse at any moment. Friends, in general, yes, many ask me about my success. In trading, it's hard to answer, I'll be honest with you. Many years have passed and it was difficult at first. It was very difficult, it was challenging and very unclear. Now I am happy to share all this knowledge with you. I hope that my videos will help you succeed. Another contract is in profit. Moving on to the next one. So friends, look, today almost all my contracts are going short. No worries. The main thing is that we are earning from it. Again, the overall trend is in a bearish phase. The candles are below the moving average. This also needs to be taken into account. The curve of the oscillator is fluctuating in the upper zone from which the price has already reacted downward. Therefore, we will consider it as the resistance zone. And basically, that's all. Currently, it is showing a slope, which confirms the possibility of a decline. Well, basically, we can conclude the explanation of the trade on this note. Friends, another very common question from beginners is what my first deposit was. Look, due to a lack of information, my first deposit was $100 and I lost it in about 15 minutes of trading, being in the market, because I simply didn't understand what was happening here and how to deal with it. I was opening trades up and down. That was, of course, foolish, but now the situation is different. Maybe this will resonate with someone. The trade is in profit. We continue trading. Now I'll show you how I determine the support zone from which I will open my contract. In the RSI indicator, we see a double reaction from the lower zone. Before that, there was a very strong bullish impulse, a breakout upwards. It is in this movement that levels are formed from which the price will react, because in each interval between candles, buyers' positions are hidden. From these levels, you can consider entering a position, but it's important to understand the strength of the movement at the moment. If there is high volatility and the trend is actively breaking out, it's better not to contradict it, as this can lead to you being stopped out and incurring losses. Currently, the volatility is not that high, so I am opening such a position. The reaction is excellent. What else can be said? A large candle has formed, and quite quickly at that. Yes, the level is strong and buyers immediately come into play. There are literally 5 seconds left until the contract closes. Friends, excellent. As soon as the price touches the moving average, you can consider that it will be in a sideways trend, and then you can trade accordingly, okay? So, friends, I think, by the way, we have reached this moment, or will reach it in the next few seconds. It is already noticeable how the price is bouncing off the curve of the moving average. By the way, I've managed to boost my deposit quite well already. I hope everything continues to go well. Let's make the trade basically the same moments. As I already mentioned, the version has once again reached the zone from which it has successfully bounced off before. We have played on this several times. The line forms a slope very well. If it weren't for this, I would have ignored this trade entry. But the candles are also still forming below the moving average. Therefore, the fact of the bear's dominance in the market is obvious. As for the topic of overclocking, friends, this is exclusively based on 6 years of experience. Once again, I say, I do not recommend anyone to repeat this. I believe this is the 8th time I'm recording this overclocking attempt, or the 9th attempt, at the computer. I've been at it for more than 5 hours, but I hope it works out this time. I'm telling you this so that you understand how everything is set up here. and to avoid any unnecessary expectations. So friends, yes, another wonderfully successful contract. In other words, by applying experience and technical analysis, this strategy becomes virtually unbeatable. Let's move on. Here's an interesting situation, by the way. I'll try to make a prediction to open a trade for a decline. You understand why it's interesting. High volatility makes it difficult to determine the entry point for the trade. I'm opening a position for a decline, but the candles at the moment are quite complexly arranged, although a pullback is starting, you see. And basically the trend is downward anyway. But due to strong volatility, a breakout might occur. Ideally, find such moments and work them out several times. Then, against the overall background, this will be the most ideal position for entry, in such a market specifically. Alright, for now things aren't going quite as planned. Again, the gravity is strong, so one can hope for a favorable outcome for this trade. Yes, friends, information is a very valuable resource now. I lacked it back then. And now, of course, it's much easier for you. More so, I always say that you have my support, and you can reach out to me for any issues. I will explain and tell everything, but results come with experience, only that way. Perfect. Friends are in the plus again. It was a little nerve-wracking, but the entry point, again I say, was chosen perfectly. Perfect. We close the contract and move on. A strong decline is happening again. There might be some connection with politics or investments by large companies. I am also opening on a decline. I explain the signals. The RCI is looking down. It is very sensitive. That's good. Our overall trend is bearish. Everything is perfect. All the candles are below the moving average. Further decline. We are waiting. Basically, there's nothing more you need to know about this. You see, all the reactions have already happened. Look, I'll tell you again about the period of time it took for me to start making a profit. This is also a very interesting question that beginners often ask. It was after 6 months. I spent 6 months on learning. This can be considered luck, most likely, because some people after a year cannot do it, but on my part, probably a huge amount of work was done and mostly psychological. Well, I was probably psychologically resilient and somewhat more stable than others because I dedicated 5 years to work in a bar, drinking in general. And there, you understand, you have to keep your nerves in check to, let's say, please everyone. So, a super deal closes with a wonderful profit from $5,200 to $209 on the balance. I think you can be happy yourself. Personally, I am already very satisfied. Wonderful, friends. The trend has still started to rise slightly, but that's not the point. Alright, let's continue with the next currency pairs. Again, the signal indicates opening a short. Signals may look similar, but in this case, a strong trend slope has formed. The greater the angle, the more powerful the movement. You understand? There was just a sharp decline. It's visible on the RCI indicator. There are strong impulses. The curve also formed a pronounced slope, which already reacted in this area. But in principle, we can wrap it up here, although we are currently in the oversold zone. But again, this is most likely the extreme point that could be reached in this place at this moment. Alright, okay. I will probably summarize everything that has been said. It's a difficult path, but the result is definitely worth it. Trading offers great opportunities to work from anywhere in the world. To have great friends, a strong and supportive environment, and many opportunities. Honestly, I must say it's incredibly nice that we will be friends. That's a plus. Yes, it's interesting that in this episode, when I decided to talk about my journey, I managed to make a really great acceleration, which is nice. But this deal happened right on the edge. As I said, I entered at the very last moment possible. Well, I think we can wrap it up here. What do you think? I'll wrap it up. A wonderful result. So, friends, we just had a wonderful trading session achieved. I know fantastic results. I am very glad that I told you about my life journey, about my path in trading. I hope something resonates with someone. Perhaps you will also find some source of inspiration in this and continue your journey with renewed efforts. I am sure that you will achieve great results and change your life. If you ever need my help, you can always reach out to me. Thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, I would be immensely grateful for your likes and comments below. Also for sharing. That's all, friends. Thank you all very much. Wishing you kindness, profit, and peace overhead. See you soon on my channel. Goodbye, everyone.